The sky above Earth's outer defense station turned an unusual shade of purple as space itself seemed to tear open. Captain Alex Murphy stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Force battleship Vigilant, his eyes fixed on the main screen. His hands gripped the edge of the command console until his knuckles turned white. "What am I looking at, Lieutenant?" he asked, his voice steady despite the dread building in his chest. Lieutenant Carol Wright worked quickly at her station, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. "Sir, sensors indicate multiple ships emerging from the anomaly. Configuration unknown. Size massive." The tear in space widened, and through it came the first of many ships. Their hulls were dark gray with red markings that resembled ancient runes. Each vessel was shaped like an arrowhead, sharp and clearly designed for war. "Open a channel," Murphy ordered. "All frequencies." "Channel open, sir." Murphy cleared his throat. "This is Captain Alex Murphy of the Earth Defense Force vessel Vigilant. You have entered human-controlled space. Please identify yourselves and state your purpose." The screen remained blank for 30 seconds before flickering to life. The image that appeared made several crew members gasp. A reptilian face filled the screen, scales the color of burnished copper, yellow eyes with vertical pupils, and a mouth filled with teeth that looked sharp enough to tear through metal. "Human vessel," the creature spoke, its voice deep and rumbling. "I am Scout Commander Vexitor of the Draconian Armada. Your species has been evaluated and found suitable for integration into the Empire. Consider this meeting your first and final warning." Murphy maintained his composure. "Commander Vexitor, we welcome peaceful contact with new species, but we do not recognize any Empire's authority over human space. I suggest we arrange for diplomatic talks." The Draconian made a sound that might have been laughter. "Diplomacy is for equals, human. The Draconians have ruled this sector of the galaxy for 10,000 years. Your kind has barely left its cradle world." The alien leaned closer to the screen. "Tell your leaders that Commander Zarket of the Imperial Armada will arrive within your week. Prepare for his arrival." The screen went dark before Murphy could respond. "Sir," Wright said, her voice shaking slightly, "more ships are coming through the anomaly, hundreds of them." Murphy turned to his communications officer. "Contact Earth Command immediately. Priority Alpha." 3 days later, the grand meeting. Hall of the United Earth Government was filled to capacity. Representatives from all human colonies had gathered to hear the report from Ambassador Diane Powell, who had just returned from her meeting with the Draconian commander. Admiral Olivia Martinez stood at the back of the room, her gray uniform crisp and perfect, her face betraying no emotion as Powell approached the podium. Powell looked exhausted. Her normally neat brown hair was disheveled, and her eyes were rimmed with red. She adjusted the microphone and took a deep breath. "The diplomatic mission has failed," she said simply. "The Draconians are not interested in negotiations or peaceful coexistence." Commander Zarket delivered an ultimatum. Earth and all human colonies have 30 days to prepare for integration into the Draconian Empire, or face extinction. The room erupted in shouts and questions. The president raised his hands for silence. "Integration?" he asked. "What exactly does that mean?" Powell's expression darkened. "Based on information provided by the commander and our observations of their treatment of other species, integration means the end of human self-governance. They would take control of our military, our resources, and our people. Resistance would be met with force." A colonial representative stood up. "What about our defense forces? Surely we can fight." Admiral Martinez stepped forward. "The Draconian Armada consists of over 3,000 warships, each more advanced than our best vessels. A direct confrontation would be costly." The word costly hung in the air. Everyone understood what she meant. Suicide. "Then what options do we have?" the president asked. Before anyone could answer, the doors at the back of the hall opened. A man in a rumpled lab coat walked in, ignoring the security officers who tried to stop him. He was tall and thin, with wild gray hair and intense blue eyes. "We have one option," the man said, his voice carrying across the now silent hall. The president frowned. Dr. Frank Harrison, this is a closed meeting. Harrison ignored the rebuke. Mr. President, members of the council, I've been leading a research team at the Europa facility for the past 5 years. We've been working on a theoretical weapon system that could give us a chance against the Draconians. Martinez narrowed her eyes. The quantum displacement project? It's nowhere near ready for deployment. It will be, Harrison insisted. If you give my team everything we need, we can have a prototype ready within 3 weeks. The president looked to Admiral Martinez. Is this possible? Martinez hesitated. The science is sound but untested, and even if it works as theorized, the ethical implications are significant. Harrison stepped closer to the president's desk. The Draconians have given us 30 days to prepare for slavery. I'm offering you a chance to save humanity. Yes, there are ethical questions, but are they more important than our survival? The president looked around the room, meeting the eyes of the representatives from Earth's colonies, places that would be the first to fall if the Draconians attacked. Dr. Harrison, you have your resources. Admiral Martinez, I want you to coordinate with Dr. Harrison's team. Buy us time with the Draconians. Make them think we're preparing to surrender while Harrison's team works. Martinez nodded sharply. Yes, sir. As the meeting broke up, Martinez approached Harrison. Your weapon, if it works, what exactly will it do to the Draconians? Harrison's expression was grim. If it works as designed, it will remove them from our reality entirely. They won't be destroyed, not exactly. They'll be somewhere else. And if it doesn't work? Harrison met her gaze steadily. Then we'll need to have our surrender terms ready. Martinez looked out the window at the night sky, where somewhere beyond the stars the largest armada the galaxy had ever seen was gathering. Get it done, Doctor, she said quietly. Whatever it takes. 3 weeks passed quickly. The outer colonies fell one by one as the Draconian Armada moved methodically through human space. Lieutenant John Reeves piloted his stealth ship between asteroid belts, keeping well away from Draconian patrol routes. His vessel, the Shadow, was the smallest ship in Earth's fleet but also the hardest to detect. Reeves adjusted his ship's systems to absorb all emissions. Even a tiny heat signature could give him away. Through the viewing port, he watched as a massive Draconian battleship hovered over New Haven Colony. The once peaceful settlement was now surrounded by alien structures. Computer record all visual data, Reeves whispered, though there was no need for quiet in the vacuum of his ship. Old habits from stealth missions died hard. The Draconians moved with military precision as they set up weapon platforms around the colony's main buildings. Humans were being herded into groups, scanned, and then directed to different areas. Some were taken to work in the fields, others to the mines. The strongest were loaded onto ships. Reeves swallowed hard and focused on his job. Admiral Martinez needed this intelligence. He carefully maneuvered his ship into position to record the Draconian command center. A warning light flashed. A patrol ship was heading his way. Reeves held his breath as he activated the ship's full stealth systems. The Shadow went completely dark. For 30 seconds he didn't move, didn't breathe, as the Draconian vessel passed within 50 meters of his position. Once it was gone, Reeves set course for Earth. What he had seen confirmed their worst fears. The Draconians weren't just conquering, they were harvesting humans as resources. Back on Earth, panic spread across cities worldwide. The government tried to maintain calm, but news of the outer colony's fall leaked to the public. Militia groups formed in many countries, training with whatever weapons they could find. In North America, a former Marine named George Ward led the largest of these groups. They'll come for Earth last, Ward told his followers as they practiced shooting in an abandoned warehouse. That gives us time to prepare. A young woman lowered her rifle. Prepare for what? You've seen the videos. Their ships are massive. What can we do against that? Ward smiled grimly. We can make them pay for every inch they take. Humans don't surrender easily. On Europa, Jupiter's icy moon, Dr. Frank Harrison hadn't slept in days. The research facility was buried 2 kilometers beneath the surface, hidden from Draconian scanners. His team worked around the clock, fueled by fear and determination. Harrison stood before a large device that filled the center of the main lab. It resembled a metal sphere surrounded by rings that slowly rotated in different directions. Blue energy pulsed between the rings. "We're ready for the 7th test," he announced. His assistant, engineer Susan Miller, looked up from her console. Her red hair was tied back in a messy ponytail and dark circles shadowed her eyes. "The power couplings are at maximum," she said. "If this doesn't work, we'll need to completely rebuild the containment field." Harrison nodded. "Begin the test." Miller activated the device. The rings spun faster and the blue energy grew brighter. In a sealed chamber connected to the main device, a piece of draconian technology they had recovered from a damaged scout ship sat on a platform. The energy field extended from the sphere, surrounding the alien object. For a moment, nothing happened. Then slowly, the object began to shimmer and fade. Within seconds, it vanished completely. The team erupted in cheers, but Miller's expression remained serious as she studied the readings on her screen. "It worked," she said, "but there's a problem. The quantum field doesn't discriminate between draconian and human technology. If we deploy this weapon, it could affect our ships too." Harrison's face fell. "How close does a ship need to be to get caught in the field?" "Based on these readings, anything within 50 kilometers would be affected," Miller answered. "We need a way to protect our own vessels." Before Harrison could respond, an alarm blared throughout the facility. A security officer rushed into the lab. "Doctor, we've detected Draconian ships entering Jupiter's orbit," he reported. "They've changed course directly toward Europa." Harrison's blood ran cold. "How did they find us?" "They captured a supply ship 3 days ago," the officer explained. "It had information about unusual activity on Europa." "How long do we have?" 6 hours at most before they're in position to attack." Harrison turned to his team. "Pack up everything, we're evacuating. The ghost weapon goes first." Commander Patricia Daniels piloted her shuttle toward the hidden Europa facility. Her mission was simple but crucial: extract Harrison's team and their weapon prototype before the Draconians arrived. "Europa base, this is Rescue 1, she radioed. "We're approaching your position. Prepare for emergency evacuation." She guided her ship through a narrow ice canyon, staying close to the surface to avoid detection. Behind her shuttle came 5 more, each designed to carry people and equipment. The ground below suddenly opened, revealing a hidden hangar. Daniels landed her shuttle as teams of scientists rushed to load equipment. Dr. Harrison approached her as she exited the shuttle. "Commander, thank you for coming." "Thank me when we're safely away," she replied. "Is that the weapon?" She pointed to the device being carefully loaded onto the largest shuttle. "Yes, it works, Commander. It can make the Draconians disappear." "Then let's make sure it gets back to Earth." Daniels organized the evacuation with military efficiency. Scientists and equipment were assigned to specific shuttles. The ghost weapon was secured with special harnesses. As the last of the equipment was loaded, the facility's sensors detected Draconian ships entering Europa's atmosphere. "They're early," Daniel said. "Everyone on board now." The 6 shuttles lifted off from the hangar, staying close to the surface of Europa. They would circle around to the far side of the moon, using its mass to shield them from Draconian sensors until they could rendezvous with a waiting stealth transport. Daniels watched through her viewport as Draconian bombers appeared on the horizon, heading straight for the now empty facility. The aliens would find nothing but an abandoned base. The shuttles slipped away into space just as the first bombs fell on the facility. The weapon that could save humanity was safely on its way to Earth. But time was running out. Only 1 week remained before the Draconian deadline. 1 week remained before the Draconian deadline. From the outside, Earth appeared to be preparing for surrender. White flags flew in major cities. Military vessels returned to dock. Government broadcasts urged calm and cooperation. But deep beneath, the North American Rocky Mountains inside the most secure facility on Earth, a different plan was taking shape. Admiral Olivia Martinez stood before a three-dimensional map showing the positions of all Draconian ships. Red dots clustered around the outer colonies with a massive concentration forming near Mars. At this rate, the full armada would reach Earth in exactly 6 days. Operation Phantom is now in effect, Martinez announced to the room full of military leaders and scientists. Dr. Harrison, please brief the team on current status. Harrison stepped forward. He looked better than he had on Europa. He'd finally gotten some sleep, but stress still lined his face. The ghost weapon works, he said simply. We've solved the discrimination problem. Thanks to Engineer Miller's breakthrough, we can now protect our ships from the quantum field effect. Miller, standing nearby, nodded. She had spent 3 days without sleep to develop a shield that would protect human technology from the weapon's effects. The modified weapon creates a quantum disruption field, Harrison continued. When this field touches Draconian ships, it will sever the connection between their physical matter and our dimension. In simple terms, they'll be phased into a parallel reality. A general raised his hand. Are we killing them? Harrison shook his head. No. They'll continue to exist, just not in our universe. They'll be somewhere else. And they can't come back? Martinez asked. Not without technology far more advanced than what they currently possess, Harrison assured her. Martinez pointed to the map. We'll deploy the weapon using these 5 cargo ships. 5 blue dots appeared on the display. Each has been retrofitted to carry 1 ghost device. They'll position themselves around the Draconian fleet here. She indicated a point near Mars orbit. Who's going to pilot these ships? Someone asked. We have volunteers, Martinez replied quietly. They understand the risks. Captain Kyle Bennett sat alone in his quarters aboard the cargo ship Horizon. Unlike a military vessel, the Horizon looked ordinary, the kind of ship that transported food and supplies between colonies. No one looking at it would guess it carried the most powerful weapon humans had ever created. Bennett opened a small box on his desk and touched the photo inside, his wife and son smiling back at him. He'd recorded a message for them earlier, explaining why he had volunteered for this mission. He hoped they would understand. A knock at his door interrupted his thoughts. He closed the box and called, "Enter." Dr. Harrison stepped into the small cabin. "Captain, we're ready to install the final components of the ghost device in your cargo hold." Bennett nodded. "Will it hurt when the device activates?" Harrison looked uncomfortable. "We don't know for certain. Test subjects disappeared too quickly to record any data on their experience." Bennett appreciated the honesty. "Tell me again how this works. In simple terms." Harrison sat down across from Bennett. "Every object exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously, but we only experience one. The ghost weapon adjusts quantum frequencies to push objects fully into a parallel dimension. They still exist, but not in our reality. And there's no way back? Not without the exact frequency key to reverse the process. And we're certainly not giving that to the Draconians." Bennett was silent for a moment. "You know, I fought in 3 colonial conflicts, killed people. But this, removing an entire species from existence, it feels different." "Not the entire species," Harrison corrected. "Just their armada. And remember what they've already done to our colonies." Bennett thought of the reports. Humans being sorted like cattle, the strongest taken for labor, families separated. "I know. I'm not backing out. I just needed to say it out loud." Harrison nodded. "Your concerns are valid, Captain. If there were any other way." "There isn't," Bennett finished. "Let's get your device installed." On the Draconian command ship, Commander Sarkett reviewed the final invasion plans. His massive form dominated the bridge, his copper scales gleaming under the ship's lights. Lesser Draconians kept their distance, eyes lowered in submission. The humans appear to be surrendering, his second-in-command reported. Their military vessels have returned to orbit. Broadcasts indicate they are preparing for integration. Sarkett made a dismissive gesture with his clawed hand. "Deception. Humans are known for their trickery." "What evidence do you have, Commander?" Zarket activated a display showing 5 cargo ships leaving Earth. These vessels, they claim to be evacuation ships for human leaders, but their course makes no sense. They're heading toward our fleet, not away from it. Perhaps they come to formally surrender. Perhaps. Zarket didn't sound convinced. Monitor them closely and bring the Armada to full battle readiness. I want all 3,000 ships in formation when we reach Earth. The humans will witness the full might of the Draconian Empire before they kneel. Back on Earth, teams worked frantically to finish the preparations. In a small conference room, Martinez briefed the president and his cabinet on the plan. The cargo ships will reach their positions in 36 hours, she explained. Once in place, they'll activate the ghost devices simultaneously. And if it doesn't work? The president asked. Martinez's expression remained professional. Then, the Draconians reach Earth in 6 days, and we fight with everything we have. The president looked around the table at the grim faces of his advisors. And if it does work, what kind of people does that make us? An uncomfortable silence fell over the room. Finally, Harrison spoke up. It makes us survivors, Mr. President. The Draconians gave us no choice. Integration means the end of human freedom. They've done it to a dozen other species already. We're not killing them, Martinez added. Just removing them from our reality. The president closed his eyes briefly. Proceed with Operation Phantom, and may whatever God is watching understand why we had to do this. As the meeting ended, Harrison approached Martinez privately. The cargo ships are reporting Draconian vessels shadowing them. They suspect something. Martinez's jaw tightened. Tell the captains to maintain course and act normal. Everything depends on them reaching their positions. Harrison nodded. Captain Bennett reports his ghost device is fully operational. The others will be ready within 12 hours. Then we're on schedule, Martinez said. The largest armada ever, assembled, is about to learn why humans should never be cornered. As she walked away, Harrison looked out a window at the night sky. Somewhere up there, 5 brave crews were carrying humanity's last hope toward an enemy that outnumbered them, 1,000 to 1. The next day would determine whether humans became slaves or saved themselves through the most audacious plan in history. The day of the deadline arrived. Earth cities were quiet, streets nearly empty as people stayed in their homes. Many prayed, others held their loved ones close. All waited. In the command center beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Martinez watched as the massive Draconian Armada moved into its final formation. On the display, over 3,000 red dots arranged themselves in a pattern that reminded her of an ancient arrowhead pointed directly at Earth. They're right on schedule, she said quietly. Behind her, Dr. Harrison and Engineer Miller monitored the status of the 5 ghost carrier ships. Each blue dot on their screen had reached its assigned position around the outer edges of the Draconian formation. Ghost carriers report ready, Miller announced. All devices show green status. The president entered the command center, followed by his security detail and key cabinet members. His face was grim as he took his place beside Martinez. Admiral, are we ready? Martinez nodded. Yes, sir. The Draconians are in position. Our ghost carriers are in place. We're waiting for your order. The president looked at the display, at the overwhelming number of enemy ships compared to their 5 carriers. Show me the captains. 5 screens lit up, showing the faces of the cargo ship captains. Captain Bennett of the Horizon was in the center screen. Captains, the president said, on behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I thank you for your courage. Is there anything you need before we proceed? Bennett spoke for the group. Just your permission to begin, Mr. President. The Draconians are starting to pay too much attention to our ships. We need to act now. The president took a deep breath. You have permission to activate the ghost devices. Good luck. Bennett nodded. Thank you, sir. He turned to someone off-screen. Begin activation sequence. On all 5 carriers, crews worked quickly to power up the ghost devices. Inside each ship's cargo hold, the spherical weapons hummed to life, their rings beginning to spin. Dr. Harrison stepped up to the main console. "I'll talk you through what's happening," he told the president and the others in the command center. On the main screen, a simulation showed the expected progression of events. The ghost devices create a quantum field that expands outward from each carrier at approximately 50 kilometers per minute. When these fields touch a Draconian ship, they'll disrupt the quantum signature that keeps the ship anchored to our reality. In simple terms, the president asked. They'll fade away, Harrison said, first becoming transparent, then disappearing completely. On the displays showing the carriers, blue light began to emanate from each ship, expanding outward in perfectly spherical patterns. Energy fields expanding, Miller reported. All 5 carriers report nominal operation. Martinez watched as the blue fields grew larger on the tactical display, slowly approaching the edges of the Draconian formation. On the Draconian command ship, alarms blared. Commander Sarkett stormed onto the bridge, his tail lashing with anger. "Report," he demanded. His science officer worked frantically at a console. Unknown energy fields detected around the human cargo vessels. The fields are expanding toward our formation. Sarkett hissed. "I knew it was a trap. Target those ships and fire immediately." All weapons locked on targets, the weapons officer confirmed. Firing. Green beams of energy shot out from dozens of Draconian warships, streaking toward the core, 5 human cargo vessels. In the Earth Command Center, alerts flashed across the screens. "The Draconians are firing on our carriers," Miller reported, her voice tense. On the tactical display, green lines connected several red dots to the blue dots representing the ghost carriers. Carriers report shields holding, a technician called out. Ghost fields continuing to expand. They watched as the blue spheres grew larger, finally reaching the first Draconian ships at the edges of their formation. "Contact," Harrison said, his voice barely above a whisper. On the screen showing Captain Bennett's bridge, they could see him watching his own display intently. "It's working," Bennett reported. "The Draconian ships are beginning to phase out." Sarkett couldn't believe what his eyes were showing him. The ships at the edge of his formation were changing, their solid hulls becoming transparent, like ghosts. "What is happening?" he demanded. "Unknown, Commander," his science officer replied, panic evident in his voice. "The energy field is altering the quantum structure of our ships. They're being shifted out of phase with normal space." "Impossible." Sarkett slammed his fist on the console. "All ships, fire everything you have at those human vessels. Now." The intensity of the Draconian attack increased dramatically. The ghost carrier's shields began to fail under the assault. "Carrier 3 reports shield failure," Miller announced. "Hull breaches on multiple decks." On the screen, they could see the captain of Carrier 3, a woman named Lisa Winters, bracing herself as her ship shook violently around her. "Ghost. Device still operational," Winters reported through the static. "Field continuing to expand. We'll hold as long as we can." The blue fields kept growing, enveloping more and more Draconian ships. The red dots on the tactical display began to fade and disappear one by one, then in groups, then in whole sections. "Carrier 5 reports complete shield failure," Miller said. "They're taking heavy damage." On Captain Bennett's screen, they could see him making a difficult decision. "Admiral," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos on his bridge. "My ship won't last much longer. I'm initiating emergency activation." Martinez stepped forward. "Bennett, emergency activation will consume your ship as well. Get your crew to the escape pods." Bennett shook his head. "No time, Admiral. The Draconians are concentrating fire on us. If my ghost device goes down, the field will collapse before reaching the command ship." He looked directly at the camera. "Tell my family I love them." Before Martinez could respond, Bennett cut the communication. On the tactical display, his carrier's blue dot suddenly pulsed brightly, and its field expanded at triple speed. "What did he do?" the president asked. Harrison's face was grim. "Emergency activation overloads the ghost device, causing an immediate field expansion. It's not survivable for the carrier crew." They watched in silence as Bennett's sacrifice accelerated. The expanded field rushed toward the center of the Draconian formation, engulfing hundreds of ships at once. Zarket watched in horror as his mighty armada disappeared around him, ship after ship fading from existence. He could still communicate with them momentarily as they phased out, their terrified reports confirming they still existed somewhere but not here, not in normal space. All remaining ships, he commanded, retreat immediately, get away from those energy fields. But it was too late. The blue field from Bennett's carrier reached the command ship. Zarket felt a strange tingling sensation as the field passed through the hull. He looked down at his clawed hand and saw it becoming transparent. "No!" he roared, but his voice sounded distant even to his own ears. "This is impossible. Humans cannot—" His words faded to nothing as his ship, and then he himself, phased completely, out of normal space. In the Earth Command Center, they watched as the last of the red dots faded from the tactical display. Where minutes before there had been over 3,000 Draconian warships, now there was nothing but empty space, all. "Draconian ships have been phased out," Miller reported, her voice filled with disbelief. "The entire armada is gone." A cheer began to build in the command center, but Martinez raised her hand for silence. "Status of our carriers?" she asked. Miller checked her displays. "Carriers 1, 2, and 4 report success. Their ghost devices are powering down carriers 3 and 5. She paused. "No response from carriers 3 and 5. And carrier 5's energy signature is gone." The celebration died before it began. The president bowed his head briefly. "We've won," he said quietly. "But the cost was high." Martinez looked at the now empty tactical display. "The entire Draconian Armada," she said in wonder. "Over 3,000 ships. Gone without a trace." Dr. Harrison nodded solemnly. "And humanity will never forget that humans were behind it." 3 months passed since the day the Draconian Armada vanished. Earth slowly returned to normal life, though normal had a new meaning now. Humanity knew they were not alone in the galaxy, and that knowledge changed everything. Admiral Martinez stood at the window of her office in the rebuilt defense headquarters. Outside, workers were constructing a memorial to those lost during what people now called the Draconian Crisis. The names of the ghost carrier crews were being carved into stone, with Captain Bennett's name at the top. Her computer chimed, announcing a visitor. "Enter," she called. Dr. Harrison walked in, looking much healthier than when she had last seen him. The dark circles under his eyes were gone, and he had gained back some of the weight he had lost during those desperate weeks. "Admiral," he greeted her. "Thank you for seeing me." "Of course, Frank." They had moved to first names after saving the world together. "What brings you here? I thought you were busy with your new research facility." Harrison nodded. "I am, but I've discovered something you need to know." He placed a data pad on her desk. "We've been monitoring the displacement zone, the area where the Draconian fleet vanished." Martinez picked up the pad and studied the readings. "What am I looking at?" "Energy spikes," Harrison explained. "They're faint but regular, and they match Draconian communication frequencies." Martinez looked up sharply. "They're communicating from the other dimension?" "Not exactly communicating," Harrison said. "It's more like echoes. Imagine shouting in a canyon. What we're detecting are the echoes of their communications bleeding through the dimensional barrier." "Can they come back?" Martinez asked the question that had haunted her for months. Harrison sighed. "Theoretically, yes, but they would need technology far beyond what they had when we phased them out. It would take them centuries to develop it, if they ever do." Martinez set down the pad. "Keep monitoring them. I want to know if those energy spikes get stronger." "There's more," Harrison said. "Ships passing near the displacement zone have reported hearing strange transmissions. Most are just static, but occasionally there are words." "What kind of words?" "Threats, mostly. Promises of revenge." Harrison looked uncomfortable. "The crews are getting spooked?" Martinez walked back to the window. "We'll restrict civilian travel through that sector. Issue a navigation warning about radiation or something similar." "That's not all I came to tell you," Harrison said. We've been contacted by 3 alien civilizations. This news surprised Martinez. Friendly? Cautiously friendly, Harrison replied. They were all under Draconian control. When the Armada disappeared, they gained their freedom. They want to know how we did it. And what have you told them? Nothing yet. That's a decision above my pay grade. Martinez smiled slightly. Mine too. I'll inform the president. He'll want to meet with them. Harrison nodded. They're sending representatives. They should arrive within the month. He hesitated. There's one more thing. Engineer Miller has a theory about the displacement. Go on. She believes the dimensional barrier is thinning in certain areas. Nothing dangerous, he added quickly, seeing Martinez's expression. But it might be possible to communicate more directly with the displaced Draconians. Why would we want to do that? Harrison looked her in the eye. Because not all Draconians were part of the Armada. There are civilians, colonies, even factions that oppose the Empire's expansion. They might be willing to help us ensure the Armada never finds a way back. Martinez considered this. Set up a secure facility for the research. But move carefully, Frank. We don't want to accidentally give them a way back. After Harrison left, Martinez turned back to the window. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the memorial construction site. She thought about Captain Bennett and his final message to his family. She had delivered it personally, a recording of a brave man explaining why he had to sacrifice himself. On the other side of the world, in what was once the Australian outback, Susan Miller stood in a new research facility. Around her, dozens of scientists worked at stations monitoring the dimensional barrier. On her main screen, strange readings appeared, fluctuations in the barrier that separated normal space from the dimension where the Draconians now existed. You recording this? She asked her assistant. Yes, ma'am, it's the 3rd fluctuation this week. Miller studied the patterns. They're trying to communicate. Should we report this to Dr. Harrison? Miller nodded. Yes, but first let's see if we can clean up the signal. She adjusted her equipment, filtering out background noise. Slowly, a pattern emerged from the static. Not words, but a repeating sequence of pulses. It's a code, she realized. A simple binary sequence. Her assistant looked worried. What does it say? Miller worked quickly, translating the pulses into text. When she finished, she stared at the result for a long moment. It says, We are still here. We are waiting. We will return. In a quiet neighborhood far from any military base, John Reeves sat on his porch watching his children play in the yard. After his reconnaissance missions during the crisis, he had been offered a promotion, but he had chosen to retire instead. He had seen enough of war. His wife brought him a drink. You're thinking about it again, aren't you? She asked. Reeves nodded. The anniversary is coming up next week. They want me to speak at the memorial dedication. Will you do it? I think I have to. He looked up at the evening sky where the first stars were becoming visible. They deserve to be remembered. His wife followed his gaze. Do you think they're really gone? The Draconians? Reeves took a sip of his drink. Nothing's ever really gone, just somewhere else. He had never told her about the strange transmission he had picked up during his final mission, a fragmented Draconian message that had come through after the fleet had vanished. A message that had sounded almost like a promise. In the presidency office, plans were being made for the first official contact with the 3 alien civilizations that had reached out to humanity. Ambassadors were being selected, protocols developed. They're calling us liberators, an advisor told the president. They want to form an alliance. The president looked thoughtful. What do they want from us? Protection, mainly. They fear the remaining Draconian colonies might try to rebuild the empire. And what do we want from them? Technology, star charts, cultural exchange, but mainly information about any remaining Draconian forces. The president nodded. Arrange the meeting. It's time humanity took its place among the stars. Deep in space near where the Draconian Armada had vanished, a small research vessel drifted silently. Its mission was to monitor the displacement zone and report any unusual activity. The lone crew member, a young scientist named Peter Clark, was the first to notice the strange readings. The dimensional barrier was fluctuating in a new pattern, almost as if something were pressing against it from the other side. He sent an urgent message to Earth. Dimensional disturbance detected. Barrier integrity at 99.7% and dropping slowly. Recommend immediate investigation. As he waited for a response, Clark stared out at the apparently empty space. To normalize, there was nothing there. But his instruments told a different story. Something was happening at the quantum level. Something that might one day allow the Draconians to find their way back. But humanity would be waiting. And they would be ready. On Earth, life continued. Children were born, people fell in love, cities were rebuilt, and in research facilities around the world, scientists worked to understand the weapon they had created and the door between dimensions they had opened. The Draconian Armada had disappeared without a trace. Humans were behind it, and humans would ensure they never returned.